Hi, I'm Amber. Welcome back to Cat's Reads, and today I'm going to share with you my second part in my book haul. I realized after making the previous haul that there's going to be actually 4 parts. So this is the second of 4 parts, not 3 like I thought there was going to be. With that being said, let's just jump in with the first book. The first being The Piano Teacher by Janice Y.K. Lee. This starts out in 1942 with William moving from England to Hong Kong and falling in love with Trudy Liang, a beautiful Eurasian socialite. But then Japan invades China and their relationship becomes more complicated and threatened by Japan's encroachment onto Hong Kong. 10 years later, we have Claire Pendleton, who comes to Hong Kong and is hired by the wealthy Chen family as their daughter's piano teacher. She's seduced by the colony's heady social life, and she soon begins an affair, only to discover that he has a very dark secret. I'm really interested to see how these stories are connected, whether they're directly connected or indirectly, and how this author is going to connect them back to one another. And really, I like anything that deals with World War II, and this deals with Japan's invasion into China, which is a subject that I haven't really heard a lot about, but I'm hoping that it'll be brought up and talked about through this story. Every House Needs a Balcony by Rena Frank. This is about a girl named Rena who is a Jewish girl living in, I think, Haifa, Israel during the 1950s. And the city and the country is still trying to build itself up after World War II. And then we see her as an adult, married, not so happy. She's very restless and doesn't really feel like she belongs where she currently is living. So she decides to go back to Haifa and kind of think about life and to see if maybe she feels more connected there. The intriguing thing about this is the fact that the main character's name is Rena, and from everything that I've researched, she doesn't really tell you that it's in any way semi-biographical, but the fact that she puts her name there makes you think that there is, and I'm just kind of, I feel a little bit iffy if I should trust this author because of that, but at the same time I'm just like, it intrigues me, so we'll see what happens. The Namesake by Jhumpa Lahiri. This is about a family who moves from India to America, and it's about the transition that they have to deal with from their culture to an American culture. They really do want to integrate into the American life, and I think that's the husband that does it well, but then they have a child and they're struggling with the name, that should they stay with their traditions, should they Americanize his name, and it's all about how that name affects their future lives, and especially the son's life, I think. So I'm wanting to read this and really any novel by Jhumpa Lahiri for quite some time, so this was bound to happen and I'm very happy to have it. In terms of enjoyment, my Larry Weaver tree, like I said in my previous haul, I've been wanting to pick up anything by him, and so this was one of the first things that I was able to find. I really have been wanting to pick up a certain book. I forget what the name is exactly, but I know that I'll know it once I see it, and I haven't been able to find it, and I'm very frustrated by it, but this is definitely something that I've been wanting to read also by him, so I'm very happy to have it. This is about Aurora, who's a widow and a mother to Emma. Aurora is able to adapt on her own pace to whatever life gives her, and she tends to make the whole world orbit around her, especially the men who all seem to want to court her. But she's thrown for a loop when her daughter decides to jump into a marriage that she doesn't really approve of and feels like it's very hasty. But then Emma is diagnosed also with cancer, and it's about the effects of both the hasty marriage and the cancer on their relationship as a mother and daughter and how they handle it together. Again, I'm wanting to read more things by Larry Weaver, something that's different than Lonesome Dove, and this is definitely different than what I've read by him, so very happy to have this. Looking forward to hopefully at some point reading it. The Map of Love by Adaf Suif. I don't know if I pronounced her name right, and I'm sorry if I butchered it. Either way, this is about a woman named Isabel who's a divorced American who's fallen for a difficult but gifted Egyptian American conductor. And shattering her romance is the courtship of her great-grandparents, Anna and Sharif, nearly 100 years before. And when Isabel goes to Egypt, I believe not only to visit his mother, she also goes back to trace her own heritage, and by doing so, she reenacts Anna's excursion to Egypt, and the story of her great-grandparents unravels before her. So this is the one book that I've already read. I really enjoyed it. It's not perfect by any means, but I did enjoy it enough to want it in my collection. Elizabeth and I by Matt Cohen. This is two love stories, one in the past, one in the present, that mirror each other, and it's set in Canada, which I'm very happy about because that's another country that I don't see a lot of books set in, and I'm always looking out for that. So I'm very happy to see that I found one that's set in that country, and the story itself sounds very intriguing, and looking forward to seeing how he handles it and how does it all connect. To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. I've already tried one other book by her, and I'm not really sure what it's called anymore. She's a difficult read because she writes in stream of consciousness. So what I've heard is that you really have to try to read it all the way straight through to really get it. I don't often read straight through, and I might just do that for this book. But like I said, I've tried reading one of her other books and it was a fail. She's an author I've been wanting to at least read one of her books, and I'm hoping that this one will be the one that I succeed at. Bel Canto by Anne Patchett. This is set somewhere in South America at the home of the country's vice president. There's a lot of people, including him, that are there for the birthday of a powerful businessman, Mr. Hazukawa, but then they are taken hostage by a group of terrorists, and it's basically, I believe, all about how they get out of that situation. And I've wanted to read this for like at least 10 years, I believe, and I'm very happy that I finally have it. I've heard a lot of good things about Bel Canto, so I'm hoping that the hype hasn't been built up too much for myself. Testament of Youth by Vera Brittain. This is her biography. I believe it starts from her childhood all the way up to her being on the front lines in the First World War as a nurse. And I'm very excited to read this, not only because it deals with the First World War instead of the second one, so I'll definitely be getting a different perspective. So I'll definitely will be learning something new about a different war, but also because she was a woman who was on the front lines, and I'm very interested to learn more about how it was for her. The last book I have to share is The Sun by Philip Mayer. This starts off with the story of Eli McCulloch, who's 13 years old, who watches his whole family get murdered by a group of Comanches and is taken in by them. He learns how to adapt and becomes really close with the chief, and he goes on their hunting trips and stuff like that, but then they are attacked by a group of white men, and he's abandoned by both white and Comanche. So he realizes that he doesn't really belong in either world and finds his own way of adapting. Then you also have his son, Peter, who has had to bear the brunt of the weight of what his father did in order to survive and how it's affecting his own life. And then you have his great-great-granddaughter who has to try to find a way to succeed in a world that's definitely a man's world. I'm very intrigued to see how this author connects 3 generations and how it's all going to work together to make one story. So that's definitely intriguing, and it sounds really good, and I'm hoping that it's as good as I'm thinking it's going to be. That's it for part 2 of my book haul. Tell me down below if you've read any of these books, which ones are you most excited to see me talk about, and thank you all so much for watching, and keep smiling.